Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be taking you through my UnderArmour Combine performance. So if you don't know what this is basically a fitness test where it tests your running ability, your lifting ability, and your jumping ability. It's similar to the NFL Combine, but it has several different components meant to test overall fitness. So to kick things off, we had the Cognition test. I did fairly well on this actually. I was quite surprised because it was my first time using this, and basically you had to tap the green dots as fast as possible. I think there were 50 green dots and you had to tap them in as little seconds as possible. So I was a bit spastic here. I think it's supposed to train your peripheral vision and it shows how much of an athlete you are, but I think this was okay. I think it gives a very good stepping stone as an event that everybody could do to some extent. The issue with the point system, which I'll mention later, is that this results in a lot of people being squeezed in the middle, and since the margin of error is so small, one mishap, since it's only one try, will cost you a lot of places. So moving on, we had the 40-yard dash. I'm okay at this, I guess. I used to run track, like I did the decathlon or multi-event, so I had a little bit of practice with this in my younger years. For 40 yards, I think it's very dependent on shorter individuals actually can get to their top speed faster. If you look at people like Su Pingtian compared to Usain Bolt and I don't know, maybe Michael Johnson, you will probably have a better start at this. So I'm going to give some inputs on that. Maybe perhaps a slightly longer track, or perhaps a different kind of sprinting event might help. So overall, I did about 5.2 seconds for this, which I think was fairly okay. I was placed in the top 30, I think. So the fastest time is about 4.8. You can see that literally a millisecond would cause you to be placed far behind. But compared to the NFL Combine, I think this had a lot of individuals packed in the 4.9 to 5.4 range, and since we are talking about milliseconds and it's laser timed, you could be pushed back quite far behind if you were a little bit slower and you reacted slowly. The next event was the vertical jump. We had to do a standing reach before we measured out our actual vertical height. My standing reach was about 223 cm if I remember correctly, and then we proceeded to test how high we can jump. So one thing about this event that is, it favors generally shorter athletes as well. So I'll give some inputs as to how you can balance out the events later on. But basically, if you have a shorter reach and you're a lighter body weight, you will probably have a higher power to weight ratio, which means that you can jump higher. I think I reached the highest vertical reach in this competition. So I touched 317 cm. If you add in my 223 cm with my 94 cm vertical leap, which equates to about 317 cm, which means I should presumably be able to. This was the agility run, which actually cost me so many points because there was only 150 competitors. It was fully booked and sold out, and it was full with good competitors. So I think the fastest time is about 8.5. I actually ran a 9.5 here. Terrible at the turns. I have no idea what happened. I wish I could have a second run at it, and I wish I had more practice with it. But in general, yeah, this was the event that cost me, I think, like the whole comp very heavily, because it was the bench press. I think this is like my pet event. I'm pretty good at this. I just walked in and said I wanted to do 3 plates or 140 kg because I think the next previous best was 130. I actually planned to do 150 times 3, but considering I didn't use this equipment before and I'm not without my wrist straps, which actually doesn't really help a lot, I just tried to play it safe. I didn't really warm up for this as well. I just walked in and said I wanted to do 140 kg. So because I didn't warm up, I was a little bit shaky. I don't think my form was perfect, but I still got it done. I was quite comfortable with this weight considering I've been doing this for working sets in my training quite regularly. I'm currently up to about 140 kg times 6 actually on my own traditional and my normal gym that I go to. So I guess the issue with this event was that I was quite far ahead. So I think the next competitor was 130, and even the 10th place competitor was about 105 kg. So that didn't really put a lot of differential between the lighter athletes and me, which I wanted to, because the 10th place was 105, and that was only 9 points below me, but I lost 90 points in agility run, which was a couple of milliseconds. So I think one thing that could be done better would to perhaps change this event to maybe a bodyweight style, or maybe for reps event. I'm gonna give some input later. The next event was a pull-up, which I was unfortunately just something went wrong here. It was a very strict event, considering that we had to do a 2-second pause up and down, which made it very taxing on the grip, but I generally had a very strong grip considering I always deadlift. But I think the issue here was that I didn't know there were different heights for the bars, so I actually chose the shortest bar, and that resulted in my leg almost touching the floor. Made me having to do an L-sit pull-up, which was very taxing on my core. And I think the issue with this is that, like, because they just like waved me off at the end, if you can see later, I just thought it was over, but I could thankfully still do a couple more reps. If I had done like 2 or 3 more reps, it would have bumped me up from like 30th place for this to at least like top 5 or top, I don't know, maybe I could even get to like top 2 for this event, like tight top 2. I was thinking I could do at least like 19-20 reps. Like, honestly, if you look at this, I did it fairly easily actually. I was still like chilling, and I was not sure of the count, so I was like doing a half pause in the middle of it as well. So I understand why they did this, because like they don't want a lot of people to do kipping pull-ups, and there was a lot of crossfitters here as well. I think that you can get a lot out of momentum with swinging your hips and legs, but I wasn't really swinging my hips and legs. I had to do an L-sit because if you see, my feet were almost touching the floor. So I don't know, maybe I was a little bit too tall for these implements. I generally have a longer arm, so really struggle with this. You have to do a pause at the top. I think it helps if you put a lot of chalk here. And in general, yeah, this was one of the events that let me down with the agility run, which kind of messed me up. After these 2 events, I got a little bit dejected already. Like, I had a very good few events before this, and I was already in top 5 placing all this while. And I had a lot of good events coming up as well. So one more thing was maybe, like, you're gonna say it's excuses again, but I was not used to the shoes. So everyone had to wear these specific shoes. I guess if everyone has a disadvantage, it's not really a disadvantage to you, but my shoes kept coming off during the run later on, like during the beep test, and I was also like mentally drained already. I knew I was like out of the podium placing, and so I was just like, okay, fine, just give a good shot, because I had a team event, right? I was with a team. So this was the sled push. We used this thing called a top tank, which was different from a sled. It was a little bit hard. You had to know where you grip it. Generally, the bottom last 2 wheels were kept jumping off because I was pushing it too hard. I wouldn't say the weight was hard for me because I do a lot of squats, but it's milliseconds, man. It's such a short run. Like, I think one thing, it was like there were so many running events, there were so many beep and pause endurance events that it didn't really demonstrate the power that I guess produce. So I guess I'm a sore loser. Nah, not really. I mean, I love the event anyway. The next event was the beep test, the last one. So yeah, I knew what I had to do on this. I needed like a 10. I end up with a 9.4. I actually ran been running miles a lot, and 1.5 miles and 1 mile, so it's about 1.6 km to 2.4 km the last couple of weeks. And a beep test generally goes up to about 17 minutes at the highest level, but most people fall off around the 2 km to 2.4 km mark, which is normally where I train actually. So I was okay at this event, but I just felt a bit dejected because of my shoes, man. I didn't bring the proper shoes here, but no excuse. Like, it was a fun event. I still made a respectable score. Before this event, I was in like 6th or 7th place, but I knew that I was out of the podium short already, so I gave a decent effort for my team, and actually my team ended up 2nd in the end, but I don't think it was a fault of my own. We collectively didn't do as well as we should, and also we chose like a very guy heavy team, which meant that it was very competitive. I think the girl event, they had like 80 people filled up, and the guys were like fully stacked with 150, and the points were so tight with the guys. Like, I think, like I said, the top 10 was like 100 points apart, which is actually less than one event. So if you messed up one event, you're really out of running for the top place already. So yeah. So let's talk about the point system. This event had 150 competitors, and based on the point system, the first place will get 150 points, the second place will get 149, and correspondingly, we go down all the way to the last place where you get 1 point. In general, because of this, you would want to have a more balanced set of athletes involved. So I would say that I would want some form of screening for competitors and non-competitors. I think that you should still make this open to the public, because I think you want to incentivize a culture of fitness. But in order to bring the best of the best, to really show who is like an elite competitive athlete, I think that you will want the best athlete to show up. So in that way, you should have some form of qualifications or screening for the competitive aspect of it, and also have some non-competitive athletes show up. How I'll do this would be to do it in a strongman style or CrossFit style, where you had like a Metcon, or you had some kind of qualifications where they had to, some way of showing some video, maybe do a CrossFit friend or something, I don't know. I think that having some form of screening for perhaps like half of the field would make this a more balanced competitive lineup. You would have many different athletes coming down. You have shorter people with shorter femur lengths. You have endurance athletes with slower twitch muscle fibers. You have sprinters with fast twitch muscle fibers and type 1 or a big mix of type 2 and type 2B muscle fibers, which are your fast twitch and slow twitch muscles. So if you don't know what these are, you can go and search them up. You have strongman athletes, you have calisthenic bodyweight athletes. You want a mixture of these athletes, but you want to still prioritize an overall fitness instead of a specialist. So how I'll do this differently would be to switch some of the events. First, we would have 2 jumps, 3 lifts, 2 runs, and 1 skill-based event. So these all have different pros and cons to make it balanced. Like if you're lighter, you'll benefit with the jumps and the runs. If you were taller, you would generally benefit with the runs because you have a longer stride length if it's an endurance run. If you're shorter, you'll be good at the sprints because you have a faster acceleration phase. So these are a little bit more advanced terminology if you understand sports science, but in general, this is how I'll do it. Considering my knowledge or my acumen into athletic training, I think I can give a fair assessment of this. I'm going to try to keep it unbiased, but how I would do it would be to, first off with the 2 jumps, I would have a vertical jump and a broad jump. Why? Because with a vertical jump, you generally favor the shorter athlete. Because if they have a shorter standing reach, they are lower body weight, they will have a higher power to weight ratio. So generally, you would want a broad jump to complement that, because a broad jump helps the taller athlete because they generally have a longer stride length and they are able to jump further. That's how the NFL does it. They have both a vertical jump and a broad jump to really showcase and complement both sets of strengths. Generally, a jumper would be good in both of them either way. And the reason why I choose this instead of something like a box jump is because you have less equipment. And I'm considering the organizers here. It's very easy to test just a vertical and a broad jump. So yeah, these 2. Next, I would talk about the lifts, right? I think we already covered the explosive aspect of fitness with the jumps. Now we're gonna do a little bit more of strength based. Why would I say 3 lifts? To really showcase a full athlete, you'll want to cover the chest muscle, the back muscle, and the leg muscle. So these events are not just suited for the heavy athlete, but also the light athlete. We'll start off with a pull-up, which will favor the lighter athlete. I actually like the idea of the beep army style kind of pull-ups because I mentioned that it takes away all those like CrossFit kind of keeping pull-ups. I think it was done well, but the fault of this event was my own for not choosing a higher bar. So maybe just make all the bars higher so that we can really start off with a dead hang. Yeah, that's my own mistake for not choosing the higher bar, but yeah, I think that was good. Next one after your back would be your chest. So a bench press is a good way of testing that. I think an overhead press is also a good way of testing that, but you have a higher risk of injury, so I would still say a bench press is safer. In general, you don't want the 150 kg guy to show up and bench 200 kg because I feel like it's not fair for like a specialist to show up and then like destroy all the generalists and then they come away with that prize. So what I would suggest would be to do either a bodyweight style or a rep range kind of bench press. I'm not saying you do it like the NFL where you make 100 kg the barrier to entry where you have to do 100 kg for max reps. I think that would dissuade a lot of your general public from taking part because most people might not be able to do 100 kg bench press. But if you are truly trying to get the best athletes to show up, I think everyone should be able to do 100 kg bench press at the minimum for people who work out and go to the gym with some strength. But I understand that might not be feasible for everybody. So perhaps do a bodyweight style, but if I were to do my own bodyweight, I'll probably end up with like 50, 60 reps, which will be very difficult because you have to check the lockout of the elbows, which that's my problem with this event. Maybe change the event to another pressing style motion or make it more of a scalability event where you do dumbbell press or something. I don't know. I gotta figure this one out later on. In terms of the leg strength for this, the Prowler was a good event. Like in terms of the top tank, I think it was good for testing leg strength. I would either make it heavier or I would make the course longer to really test like the muscular endurance of the athlete. Because this one was really a speed sprint, which I didn't mind, just that considering that this was a first time implement for most of people, I don't think we were very familiar with the top tank, like how to push it and where to grip it. So perhaps maybe, I don't know, if you want to do a squat, you want to do what they did in the test of will previously was, so I watched all the events. I watched so many CrossFit events, strongman events that I can say safely that perhaps even the previous events where they did, I forgot what's that called, one of those Bulgarian bags where they put it on their back and then they did lunges for distance with a weight. I think that's a fair way to do it. You could do a sandbag lift and carry like how they do the stones in strongman. That's also fair. I wouldn't really do strongman events because those are dangerous, like throwing a keg and all this kind of stuff. I've tried them myself, but I don't think this is a general public event. You could do a prowler walk. You could even do those farmers walk or axle walk. I think that might really be fun. Like honestly, that would be a true test of strength, an axle walk. But it's hard to practice that for individuals. So stick the sled is fine, or do like one of those. Instead of a sledge, we can attach it to our back and do a sprint, something like the sprinters do. So I don't know, at least one leg lifting event which requires strength. Not the deadlift or squat because I think that's too specialist. A lot of powerlifters will show up, and I don't think this is like a powerlifting event. Powerlifting is very, don't get me wrong, it's very catered to lowering ROM, so it's like range of motion. It's not really a true test of like general athleticism. I think strongman might be a better one for that, but yeah, I'm not here to make that argument or debate. Next one would be 2 runs. I like the beep test. Like honestly, I think it's a good way to really like separate the men from the boys. I was clearly a boy because I gave up because of my shoes. I think I gave a fair try. I ran into the level 9, but I have done really better in my past. I've done up to 12 actually when I was younger, when I was really competing for like distance running. But another day, more training, more lead up time. I will try harder next time. So yeah, I think the beep test was great. Like just keep that. Since the beep test tests endurance, you'll want a one to test fast twitch muscle fibers. I'm not even great at this, I've never been great at sprints. I've done track for 10 years. I've always sucked at sprints, and I still suck at it. I know I end up 30 place, but I don't think this was like a lot of the top-notch sprinters. I'll get destroyed if like a lot of good sprinters showed up. But I like the challenge, so I'll say keep it at 40 meters if you want, or increase it to 60 meters so that it helps a little bit more of the taller athletes. And even then, 60 meters was dominated by shorter athletes like Su Pingtian or some of the who's that big guy, that British guy. Let me search him up. That British guy, that Harry Aikins Artite or something. I think his name was that. Like there was a lot of good sprinters and muscular, heavy. But even Johan Blake was great at 60 meters. So I think that still favors short guys, but I think it's 60 meters. I think that's fine. Yeah, it was really conducted well. The laser time, those shit was top notch. So I'm okay with 40, 60 meter dash. If you want, you can change it to I don't know, what's that CrossFit rower thing? Concept 2. You could make it a Concept 2 sprint for Kels if you want to make it fast twitch as well. Make it a bit more full body. You could use a ski erg as well. But I think that's more rope implement, so it might not be an UnderArmour thing. But yeah, sure, those were great. I think a cognitive test is good, but I think, unfortunately, like, a lot of us tried it for the first time. I did fairly well on it. I got like 11 or 12 out, I got like 13 out of 150, which was actually quite a good place. But I think this was not, it's like for a one try thing, I think I did okay overall. Like I placed within the top 10 for most of the events, but I think overall I was let down by a couple of misses. The difficulty I had was that when I went to the website for the first time, there wasn't a lot of information as to the specifics of the event, as to what equipments were being used and how it was going to be conducted. So a lot of us came in there like trying the equipments for the first time. But I'm going to give the organizers credit that it was an amazing event overall. The vibes were amazing. The competitors were absolutely incredible. We had a lot of athletes from all across the world. We had national athletes, we had Olympic weightlifters, we had CrossFit people. So I think that it was a very good mix of competitors and participants. But I think a little bit more could be done in terms of the screening as well as perhaps the point system. I think that's something that I had a little bit of qualms with, but for the first event, I think it was done absolutely well. Like I said, I'm just gonna be a fitness enthusiast, give my input on some of these things, but yeah, I'm more catered and more driven towards like building my income and my career right now. So yeah, if you wanna stay tuned for more of that sort of content, self-improvement stuff, do like, share, and subscribe, and leave a comment on how you want this event to improve. I'll see you guys next time. By the way, if you wanna check out the combined results, in the description in the bio, and all my other links, socials, my Telegram group, my Discord, whatnot. See you guys next time. Bye!